Hey everyone, my name is Sarah and this is Sarah in God's Time. This last week I was really excited because I always look forward to these times that I get to come and spend a little bit of time with you guys. And it was funny to me that this last week my mind was on a time whenever I was doing children's moments at our church. And children's moments are like little mini life lessons on how to apply what it is that we learn in the Bible to everyday life. And it's for the children and for the adults as well. And so this particular memory that came to mind had to do with Matthew 6:19 through 21. And as I expanded on this thought over this last week, reading the Bible and praying and hearing what it was that God had to share with me, I learned a little bit more than what it was that this children's moment I had taught in this children's moment so long ago. And the memory that came to mind was whenever I gathered all the children together for this children's moment, and I got them all together and I said, I'm going to give you a few minutes to catch as many bubbles as you possibly can. And so they all got together. They were super excited, and I gave them that instruction. I said, catch as many as you can, and then I hit the button and I said, go. And all of the kids were they were so full of energy. And they were popping all of the bubbles. They were going after them. They were trying to pop them with their nose. They were trying to eat them. It was hilarious to watch, and it was just so full of joy. It was so full of joy. They were just going after him. And whenever the time was up, they all stopped and they were all super happy and giggling and laughing. And it was wonderful to see. And they sat down and I go, how many did you catch? And they were given crazy numbers, like, I caught 1 million. And some of them were realistic. They were like, okay, yeah, I caught like 15. But they were so excited. And then I stopped and I said, okay, I want to see them. And of course, they just kind of looked at me like, what do you mean you want to see them? I want to see how many you caught. Like, show them to me. And they couldn't do it. And I said, well, where did they all go? And obviously the answer they gave me back was, they popped. As soon as we touched them, they disappeared. And this opened the door for a conversation about how sometimes what it is that we seek after in this life disappears a little bit faster than maybe we would have hoped. But there's a solution to that issue. And we find it in Matthew 6:19 through 21. But before we get there, we can talk about this. Some of the things that we want in this life, as soon as we catch them, as soon as we get what we are after, they disappear. For me, I think of a paycheck. We have things, we have bills that we have to pay, we have food that we have to buy, we have insurance we need to pay, we have all of these different things that we spend our money on that is necessary. And our paychecks disappear a little more quickly than we would like them to. We can also think of other things like gadgets and toys. For children and adults alike, I know that us adults sometimes have our gadgets and toys that we really like to have, and they can have their proper use. But then they just kind of seem to lose their value as time goes on. Maybe it's we get what we really want and then we realize it's not really as important as we thought it was. Or we don't use it as often as we thought it does. Or we thought it would, and then it kind of sits on the shelf. Kids might do the same thing. They want this toy so bad, and then you get it for them and it just kind of is sitting on the shelf. The ways of this world can steal away our joy when we place this world in a higher position of honor in our lives than it should be placed in. The things of this world. So in Matthew 6:19 through 21, we can read about how Jesus talks about some of these things. So all throughout Matthew, Matthew 5, 6, 7. You can read all kinds of really interesting topics. Jesus talks about vows. He talks about revenge. He talks about loving our enemies. He talks about giving to people some of the things that we might have an abundance of that other people maybe don't have any of. He talks about prayer and how to go to our God in prayer. He talks about fasting. The one that we're going to be on here, he's talking about money. You can go through into the next place and it talks about worry and it talks about judging others. It's really, he's got a lot of topics that he touches on that are really applicable in today's world, just as they were applicable in his time. And so I'm going to read from Matthew 6, 19 through 21. And we're going to go focusing on what it is that we should be putting our trust in, what it is that we should really be focusing on. And it says, Jesus is talking here, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And so, whenever we're thinking of these two contrasts, we're thinking of what it is that we're storing up here in this world versus what it is that we're storing up in eternity. Don't try to store up for yourselves bubbles. They will disappear faster than you would want them to. Don't store up for yourselves the things of this world. And whenever I think of these things, I think of things like money. I think of things like possessions. I think of things like just status, even. When it's put in a place higher than God, then it's going to steal away your joy. Don't try to store up for yourselves bubbles that disappear in such a short time. Instead, go after what really matters in life. Things that will last for eternity. This world will fade someday. But the things that everything that we store up for our lives in this world will eventually fade or instantly disappear. But those things that we store up for ourselves in eternity will last for eternity. They'll last forever. Those things include a life well lived for God. They include relationships that are built on love and respect for the people that we are in relationship with. They include attitudes that are Christ-like and committed to following God in obedience, because God's plan for our lives is going to be much better than what we could ever come up with on our own. Don't chase after money and possessions and status that are not necessary. They will leave you empty in the end. I think of Ecclesiastes, where King Solomon is actually talking about this very thing. He talks about how all the things of this world, even the best things, even the things that are not evil in themselves, end up being meaningless. They leave you empty when they are placed in a position higher than God. And it says here in Ecclesiastes 2, 10 and 11. Let me find this here. Got it marked. It says, "I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for all my toil. Yet, when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. He's referring to my chasing after bubbles as a chasing after the wind. And that's so sad. Nothing was gained when he was chasing after the wind. Nothing is gained in our lives today when we're chasing after bubbles. We accomplish nothing. Now, this is not to say that money and possessions are all bad. I want to make that very clear. Money and possessions can be really useful. For example, paying our bills is a good thing for us to do. Working to earn money so that we can pay for our food and our clothes and our shelter is a good thing. That's something that we should be doing. However, they need to stay in their proper place. I don't have to have name brand clothes. I don't have to have the biggest house or the newest car. I don't have to have more money than is needed for me to live a life for God. And even when we don't have all of the stuff and all of the new toys and all of the brand new technology and all of those big things that sometimes we get distracted with, God will still use what it is that He has given us financially and with material items for us to be useful in carrying out His plan for our lives and showing kindness and love to other people. So these things that we have must stay in their proper place for us to have joy that cannot be stolen from us. As soon as these things become more important than God and the people around us, they have gained power and control over our lives. And they are not in their proper place. Where your treasure is, there your heart is also. The most important things include our relationships with our relationship with God and our dedication to live as He leads us to live, and our love for those around us. When God is placed in His proper place, all other things, including our money, our possessions, and our goals, how we spend our time, what we go after, all of those things are also in their proper place. So, these were the things that were brought to mind as I was praying over this last week about what it is that I should be focusing on, what it is that I should be sharing in this week's devotional. And I trust God that this is useful for somebody out there who is listening. And I hope that it is. I hope that it is useful for you. And that is all that I have for you this week. I hope your week it goes very smooth. I hope it is a wonderful week for you. And I look forward to seeing you guys again next time. So have a great week, everyone. Thanks. Bye.